nearly 5 million downloads. Choose the thing you like doing the most. If you like doing something so much, then you don't have to motivate yourself like week over week to do it again.
You was working full-time as an aircraft captain.
Because I have zero education about it. And I also don't believe that you really need anything. The thing you need most is experience. Like, if you don't do your work, he's going to come and he's going to slap you. And I'm wrong. That was bullshit what I did. And I need to change something. Don't believe in this burnout thing. I just continue working. But I'm extremely picky on the result. So if the result is not 100%, then I'm very dissatisfied.
Welcome to True Potential Podcast. Today, we are coming to you from a beautiful island of Cyprus, and we have a pleasure to talk with the founder, Leon Fiedler. Welcome, Leon.
Hey, thanks very much. Pleasure being here.
Finally, we can talk and you can share a little bit the success story behind your business, because a lot of people are asking me a lot of questions, and I know with your busy schedule, it's a little bit tough to answer all of them. So for the people who see you the first time, can you share a little bit about your business? What are you guys doing? Because AI online business sounds a little bit broad. What kind of product do you do?
So we really specialize in creating mobile applications. So we start from coming up with the idea, with the whole implementation ourselves, and then we operate, market it. And some of the products we exit on, we sell. Some of the other products we can continue keeping working on them and improving them. And so we have a more variety of different products. Some in the AI sphere, some in just regular mobile application market, or web applications.
Mm-hmm. Can you give an example of one of applications maybe?
Sure. So we kind of have one main product, one focus product, which is it's called Voices AI. It's an AI app, and it's super cool because you can like speak into your phone. You record your voice basically, and you can choose one of 200 AI characters with like famous voices everybody knows, and that particular voice will just talk exactly how you did it, but it will sound ultra realistic. And it's so cool that you can actually clone your own voice, just recording your own voice 10 seconds, and it will sound amazingly. And that's our core product we currently focus on.
I know that your company experienced significant growth in the past year. Can you please share a little bit more, some numbers, right? Like what did you guys achieve in the past year?
Sure, yeah. So this main product, it's actually only about 1 year old now. And what we achieved is really quick fit on the market and adoption, meaning we have about nearly 5 million downloads we've reached within a time period. And it's been growing amazingly from basically day one ever since.
You're 26, right? And for the past year, you was working full-time as an aircraft captain. And at the same time, you managed to grow a 7-figure business. How did you do that?
So it sounds like an ultra busy schedule, but actually it wasn't too bad for me personally, just because of how my job as in the job as a pilot was actually. So there was actually plenty of free time where I could spend working on the business. But even before, I had like a different job also in the airline industry. And it really comes up to, like, it's never the problem that you don't have time. It's obviously the problem, like, what are you doing with your time? Like, you can come off from work and you go on the couch and watch TV, but you can also go and work on your business, right? So it's basically your choice. So for most people, it's not going to be like a time constraint, but it's a question, are you ready to, after a long day of work, to go work on yourself as well? And unfortunately, most people will not be willing to do it, but the people who are they usually then the people who at some point will get to certain success.
So then what motivates you to go after work, go work again?
Yeah, that's a very difficult topic. Yeah, like the keeping responsible by yourself to keep working on it, because nobody is in every other job you have a boss who is like, if you don't do your work, he's gonna come and he's gonna slap you and tell you to work, right? It's not happening if you sit alone. Like nobody is gonna slap you if you're watching TV. um, to me it's just fun building a product, and like you build a product and then you push it out to the market, which is like a great feeling of fulfillment. But then if people come and tell you like how great the application is, and it's so great that they actually start giving you money, and then it's just this feeling of success, which just in this case fuels me to just continue working on the product and just to improve and keep working on it. It's just fun. Like that's the bottom line.
Mm. So what I hear is like the process, you enjoy the process, and then you also like that feedback from people when you have a good fit and people kind of appreciate the product, and also having the feeling of success afterwards
Right.
when you see financial numbers.
Yeah, and that's to me like the most important things. And when we like launch a new product, for example, like the goal is to get to the market as quick as possible. For that exact reason, like the whole team will be motivated if they see the product is now published and it's out, and people will just type in a review or something and say like that's an awesome app, that's the best app I've ever downloaded whatsoever. It will fuel the whole team to continue working on it and making it even better. So that's like one of the crucial things we do is the time to market has to be extremely quick. If we have a product idea which cannot fulfill that goal, then we're just not going to continue with that product. There's thousands of other products we can develop and do. This will be just not for us now.
Some startups, I know they spend months to find that it works. What's your process in your company? Maybe an example.
Too many people search for things, to invent things nobody has ever done before. It's possible to do it. It's possible to be successful, but it's just so much more difficult to do. That's why we don't do it. Like we don't reinvent the wheel. We basically go to the App Store and we look in certain niches where we're interested in potentially developing a product. And we check out different applications on the App Store. And basically what we want to see is a specific product in a niche we're interested in, where we see that other apps are very successful doing it, like large amount of reviews, or you can get like some estimated revenue data and we'll see that. But on the other hand, the product just sucks. And that's one thing we're extremely good at, that we can build products which are just great. And that's what makes us also different from others, that we focus so much on the product. So basically, we find an application which is served to the customers, which shows success, but we know we can do it better. We maybe not can do it cheaper, but we can do it better. And that's when this becomes an idea where we would evaluate, do we want to go into there or do we not want to go to in there? But if we have those parameters, then it's certainly very interesting to us to take a look into it.
How do you define great? What's great product in your company, right? Like how do you define it?
Great product usually for mobile applications really comes down to the user experience. And it's kind of abstract because it's like you open the app and it's the feeling you get when you use the app. And it's actually very heavy on the technical side, that everything is just fluidly loading and quickly, and it feels snappy on your phone. On the other hand, it's also the user interface itself, that things just make sense, how they're combined with it. And we did, by the way, like this whole process I described, that's how Voices AI actually started. We did exactly this approach. And So on Voices AI, in this example, we knew, well, we can do much better user interface, much user experience on the app, but also on the core feature. So just this text or speech to speech, or text to speech, speech to speech, we can add a lot more quality than our competitors did. And we just went out there with the best possible quality of this core product. It just sounded much more natural, much more realistic than all the other ones. And that's how we gained very quickly some market share.
How big is your team?
We have like an additional developer right now. We have like on and off some people in the team, some freelancers, but really core people, it's mostly me and sometimes a hand of other people, but that's really it. It's tiny.
The company has around 5 million downloads in the last year, and most of the things done by you. Can you a little bit share how your working week looks like and what is done specifically by you with your hands, let's say, right? What kind of tasks?
So the working week is crazy. It's 7 days a week, every day in the week. It's sometimes at night, sometimes my phone rings at night and I go up because some damn server just crashed and I have to like come to the rescue to do it, which is the downside of this tiny team, right? I don't have people who could step in. So my work week, it's super flexible. It can be that I'm actually coding on the app. It can be that I'm doing in marketing some stuff. Can be doing that I'm sales. But I also reply to reviews and customer support tickets. Like people, they purchase something on the app and for some reason they didn't receive the product, and I'll fix it and I write them back and thanks for reaching out and fixing those issues, which obviously gives also the very nice overview and also insight into the whole company. So from development to marketing to sales to customer support, I know in every step, everything, what's going on. So I understand this whole product to the last detail, which obviously is very helpful in many situations, though also hinders a little bit the scaling of the product.
So how do you personally feel in such atmosphere, right, in such schedule when you need to do basically everything or like 90% of things by yourself? Yeah.
It's good. Obviously, there are a lot of tasks which I don't necessarily want to do, but I have to do it. They have to be done. But it's always fun and enjoyable to see that even all those small tasks, they add up to the big success. It's not the one thing I or we did on the product that brought us to 5 millions. It's thousands of small steps which actually brought us to where we are today. And that's why we just continue to keep those tiny steps which just make us better every day.
How did you acquire such a diverse skill set? Do you have some special education? Where did you learn all of that, right? Because as I understood, you do coding, you do marketing, you do customer support, you fly a plane.
Well, so obviously for the plane, I got some formal education. I'm legally certified to fly planes, obviously. But when it comes to business, I have zero education about it. And I also don't believe that you really need anything. The thing you need most is experience. So I started when I turned 18 because like the legislation in Germany was just that way. You had to be 18 to start a business. And on my 18th birthday, I went out and registered my business that day. And ever since I've been having a business since I turned 18. And I just tried out things. And I failed a million times, but some of the times then I actually succeeded. And that's where the success ultimately then came from. It's just a thing like you cannot stop trying. if you stop trying, then you're lost. So if you keep trying, maybe you'll get a shot at it at some point.
Mm. That's actually interesting that you mentioned about failures and having the setbacks, because usually what I see a lot of entrepreneurs hosting a podcast, right, or speaking out, that I had it in the past, but now I'm successful. So that's interesting. Have you experienced some real setback in your entrepreneurship journey? And if yes, like what helped you to overcome it, right?
Yeah, I get hundreds, thousands, and it's part of the game. I had 100 failed projects before the first project actually made like the first dollar of revenue. I spent probably at least 6 years trying to properly do money on it. And still today, even with some of the great products we have out in the stores, I screw up like constantly. And it's always fine, and it's good that you screw up as long as you review what you did wrong and you'll actually learn from it. And then you'll try again, but you'll change a little bit your approach, and maybe you'll succeed. If you still fail, well, you have to iterate over it again. But well, if you don't fail, you're doing something wrong usually. Then you're not trying hard enough, or you're not trying to break through something actually significant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you said that you learn from it. Do you have some formal learning process? How do you usually learn from your mistakes? It's always been interesting for me. Is it like something that you sit and reflect and you have a formal framework, right? Like as life coach, it's very interesting for me how people have this process of learning and how you specifically do it in your life and your company.
Yeah, so what I observed is a lot of people, including me, they always say like, yeah, I learned from my mistake, but actually they didn't. They will do the same stupidity, and then they are like surprised that they get the same stupid result. I don't have a fixed framework for it. It's just very consciously sitting down and thinking over what exactly have you tried, what was the outcome you was hoping for, what was the actual result, and now what's my take on what could I change that things are working differently the next time. Like as I said, like I built like, not lying, like more than 100 products, and they all failed miserably. And at some point, because I was doing the same things over and over and over again, and I felt like, why is it not working? This can't be true. Like I put so much effort, I work so hard, so many hours, and it's just not working. Like what's going on? And then I sat down and I was thinking like, okay, but did I, between those projects and attempts, did I change anything? And I came up to, I didn't. I did the same things, just, this time the color was green instead of blue whatsoever. And so that's when I changed my approach. And that was actually a little bit where I came up with this strategy, what I described earlier, like how we try to find new products we're building. It's kind of the first stage which evolved from that to say like, let's not just build a product I think would be cool, but let's actually have some plan on what describes a product that could work for us. Still not certain that it's going to work, but the chances that it's going to work are increased a lot.
Yeah.
And that's basically the process. And it's really hard because you need to learn that you tell yourself, like, I failed, I'm wrong. And to many people, it's really hard to tell to yourself, like, I'm wrong, that was bullshit what I did, and I need to change something. It's difficult, but you'll have to get through it if you really want to advance.
Yeah. I think it's really powerful mindset when you, like, coming back to yourself, right? Like, I can't change things or I can't complain about things because I don't have power over them, but what I personally can do differently, or what I'm missing. And I wonder, what is your personal quality which gives you this strength and belief, right, that you just need to keep going?
It's somewhat just the structure of like society where you go work like a job like every day, where I'm like I do not want to be dependent on something like that. And it's like this big feeling of, if I fail, I want to be responsible for my failure. Like I don't want to say like, oh, this company just failed I worked at, and now I'm homeless and now I have to struggle and try to find a solution. Obviously it's not them who are at fault, but it's always me with my decisions I took. Uh, but when I have my own business and my own structure set up, then I know like everything that hits me, it was me who was hitting myself. Um, and I think this kind of feeling just keeps me going on building something myself, rather than just relying on anything where I don't have a direct control about it.
I was researching about grit and perseverance, and from my personal feeling, you're the person who is a great example of having very strong grit and perseverance, and just this ability to focus on things, to go till the end, this a little bit winner's mindset. And I wonder, from your perspective, is it something that you learned, right? Like, or you was born with that, or how did you build it inside yourself? Because that's something that when I work with people as a coach, I see sometimes they're trying to learn it, or some parents trying to grow it in children. So I wonder, what's your personal view for yourself? Is it something you was born with, and it more like you had environment where it grew, or more like you learn it during some time?
I think certainly like I was certainly born with some good amount of stubbornness. I just hate like if something doesn't work the way I want it, then I'll just try to get it work. I'm so pissed at myself then that I just try over and over and over again until it works, because just I want it to work, so I'll make it work. That's certainly something kind of I would say like character, or something I just came with. But also what really helps is, especially if you start business, there are like a billion different options you can do, right? So many different businesses. Choose the thing you like doing the most. If you like doing something so much, then you don't have to motivate yourself like week over week to do it again. I love building apps, and that's how I got into the business actually, or at least like we actually started off in video production. I liked it at the time. It failed miserably. It didn't have a single contract for actual dollars. So I stopped doing that, moved more into web development, where, I mean, things were going, but I hated doing it. I was so like annoyed by creating websites and WordPress and whatsoever and clicking the buttons there, that this was the perfect example for, well, the business, it kind of works, but I'm so annoyed by doing it that I'm not motivated enough to do it. And that was a little bit the point where I got further into app development, where I just really enjoy doing the whole cycle, development, marketing, sales, whatsoever. And so I don't have to stand up and force myself to go to work. I don't want to go to bed and sleep because I want to continue to work, because it's just fun working. And so like really I think the key is, if you want to start a business, start your business with something you just love doing anyways, and just get to a very, very high quality of it. And then you'll probably need to learn like the skills around it, how to market it, how to sell it. And then all the business things afterwards, like to make it profitable, investors, whatsoever, they will come. Like you can learn them. Like don't worry about that. If you don't know what venture capital is, nobody cares. Like just go out and start to make a first dollar to have an actual business, and then you can learn the rest of the things. It'll come.
This love to what you are doing. I'm curious, how what's your self-regulatory mechanism, let's say that way? I don't want to say life-work balance, but at the same time, it's a little bit about other spheres of your life, right? I know you're young, and I know that also there are a lot of entrepreneurs who burn out very quickly after working some years nonstop. So what's your approach to life-work balance? What's your opinion about that? And how do you manage other spheres of your life?
It's easy and maybe controversial. I just don't believe in this burnout thing. I just continue working. I mean, my girlfriend is a bit regulating me on still going to some social things and going out, but from my side, like, I don't need to regulate myself. I'm just happy with just continue working. I don't need to take a break. I just like doing it, and so I just continue doing it.
Yeah, but do you have something else in your life except work, right? Like, do you do like sport? Do you travel, or how it works, right?
Well, yeah, for sure. But I mean, I used to do the business on in parallel with flying, so I got around the globe quite a bit. Got to many different places, basically for free or even paid because I mean I was flying the plane. So I was able to travel around a lot. Yeah, like working out, obviously, like very important, especially like on a digital business. You sit in front of the computer most of the time, right? So working out, sure, like keeping yourself just healthy and at the best level to perform the best. Um, but otherwise, yeah, that's basically my life. It is surrounded by mostly work, but I don't consider it work because it's really like just following a passion. Or for some people, they would maybe call it a hobby or something. Some people like going, I don't know, swimming or something, and I just sit on my computer and continue developing our products.
It's more like your passion.
Yeah, certainly. It doesn't feel like it's nothing like a job to me. It's just fun doing it, and that I think that's a key on how to keep so passionate and so consistent at something and dedicated, that you just have to love what you're doing.
Yeah. And I've heard that you like the biggest part what you enjoy is like this full cycle of app development or product development, right? Like including marketing and shipping product to the end customer. I'm curious because everybody has their strengths, which I mean like skill set, maybe even hard skills, right? And some things which you think you are missing and you need to recruit some team members now or in the future. So how do you see yourself? What are your absolute strengths professional-wise in your business? And what are the things which you think you need some teammates maybe in the future?
Yeah, that's interesting because I always tell myself that I suck at pretty much everything I do. Obviously, it's not 100% true, but what I see is I kind of have skills in a lot of different expertises and areas. Like I know how to code an app. I know how to like do some graphics design. I know how to design an app whatsoever. But all those skills are like at maybe maximum advanced level. But the unique thing comes of actually having all of them at an advanced level where I can combine them together. So I think that's a little bit of the superpower. But certainly, like for example, the first thing I did with my business is I hired people in marketing because I'm just not good at, and it's important to just admit yourself that you're not good at something, but you got to take the steps to make sure that things run. Because obviously, like a product without marketing, I mean, it can work, but the chances of success are just tiny. So that's what was the first where like I added people into marketing, so I could keep more focused on development because I think that's my biggest strength. But yeah, right now like the team we're expanding everywhere to just be able to build better products, to build more products and to get more users enjoying our applications.
Right, right. And what's your view in general about the team? Because you mentioned now there are a couple of people involved, so you have relatively small team. Do you see expanding your team, or you prefer to have the same amount of people?
Yeah, but that's something actually one of the skills I'm learning right now is like especially hiring. I gotta learn it. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to find good people, dedicated people, and people with great skills. And at the same time, it needs to fit in your budget, right? You can't just spend millions on employees, and you know it has to make sense. Um, so yeah, in general, like we're looking to extend the team in all areas, like all across the whole cycle. Looking to add people to just build more products and better products. But it's certainly something where I'm learning the most currently is in how to find the best candidates for your team, and not only then to hire them, but how do you keep them motivated, how you manage them, how you give them the task that your employees can actually work very efficiently. And obviously what helps in across all the skills basically is, I mean, I was on the other side as an employee in other companies, right? So I always think about how did my boss behave? What kind of leadership skills? What did he do well? What was terrible? What didn't work at all? And just trying to take as many observations I experienced and actually be very conscious about what they did and what maybe I should copy or at least try out, and what should I avoid actually doing whatsoever and completely.
So that opens a billion of questions from my side. I'm just listening you, and that's very curious approach that you learning as a leader, not only by leading people, right, but you're trying to remember all of your experiences. I'm curious, like you mentioned a few times that it's hard to find best people and right people. How do you define best people for your company specifically, right? Like maybe 3 qualities of your teammates which you're looking for, apart from professional
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah, best is always very subjective. It always depends on the role and the company. How I lead my company is a very open and more relaxed type, I would say, from my side. Don't know how my employees would describe it, but that's how I
Can
would
ask them
subscribe it.
afterwards. They can write in comments.
No, but like I don't micromanage people.
Yeah.
I give them a task, and that's one of the most important skills I need. I give them a task, and then I keep it open for them how to solve it. I don't care how you solve it, at least as long as it kind of works, right? And it's not going to break in the future very quickly. So then I don't care about the way, but I'm extremely picky on the result. So if the result is not 100%, then I'm very dissatisfied. So it's on one hand this I would say proactivity to come up with your own solutions how to do something, but at the same time this detailed oriented work. But there's always this balance I'm trying right now myself to describe is when you go in a product development, what I mentioned earlier, it's extremely important for us to go to market, right, with our product, which means you have to take shortcuts in the beginning. You can't make an app perfect, but 80% is enough. But now you have to define like what's within the 80% and what's within the last 20%. What's the things we can skip for now, which won't have too much influence on actually acquisition, on user experience, and whatsoever. And finding this balance of understanding is very difficult to find in an employee, because you need to have this whole overview over the product cycle. So from development to marketing and sales, Because if you don't understand marketing and sales, you can't really decide in development if that's going to be an important thing or not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of really the key qualities. They're very abstract. They're not really the traditional, or you have to be punctual or responsible or whatever. No, but that's really the key points I found, which would help me a lot in team members to actually grow quicker.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe a bit curious question I have internally, because such people, usually what you describe, I see a person who can see things from the big picture, right? Like see it like as a system, and at the same time be able to focus on detail, on their area. Usually it's quite proactive and smart people, right? Who are able to zoom out and zoom in. Why people should choose your company? Why such dynamic people, right? Who haven't, what do you give back as employer?
Yeah.
Or as a leader, right?
Well, I think actually one of the things we offer is just a space where you can actually, where those qualities are wanted and actually appreciated. I would say in most other jobs, you're hired for a very specific function, and you're not necessarily asked to go beyond that, and certainly not compensated for the things you do beyond what your job description maybe says, right? And so if we hire someone and we see like, maybe we hired someone as developer, but we see him much more like going across multiple different departments and being much better, like we don't have hard borders in between those departments.
Yeah.
We can just move people to what they love doing, what they enjoy doing. And obviously, we're sharing our success with the people in our team we have who also help us getting to the success we're going to.
Yeah, and you mentioned your employments before. What's one thing which you learned which you will never do as a leader? You know, from your past employers, one thing which you experienced and you're like, no way, I'm having it in my company. Maybe it's not one, but you can pick.
That's a very good question. So what I always observed is, so when it came to like the airline, there's you're in the plane, right? In our case, it was two pilots. One of the pilots was me, then there was the captain who is ultimately the responsible person in the plane.
Yeah.
And we had 4 cabin crew members. So basically, there's the one leader, the captain. He takes all decisions unless he would delegate that decision to someone else. And if the captain is gone for whatever reason, then I would have taken over those responsibilities. What I always observed is, if the captain, like two things. First, if he's not in a good mood, it transfers to everybody immediately. And he doesn't even need to say, like, not even say something negative, but just if his appearance and his, just the appearance,
acts.
shows that he's annoyed or that he's angry or whatsoever, the whole crew is completely different. And so it's so important of the leading person to actually be positive, and even like in the negative times, like bring up the negative things, but the positive side, then you have to bring up, like, show up a way how we can get out of the negative, and this will motivate the people to actually start working on the things to turn it around. And the second thing I saw is, like, leaders have to be leaders, and there has to be a leader in your circle. Like, if you put a group without a leader, it's just a complete mess, a nightmare. You have to have one ultimate person who just takes responsibility for the whole group and just says how it goes. And he needs to go into the room and tell exactly how things have to be done, and who does what thing. And people will actually appreciate it. what you might think like they're getting annoyed because they're getting control. No, they appreciate it because now they know exactly what they need to do. They know the responsibilities, they'll do their task, and there has to be this one person who just structures the whole work, delegates the work to make like the whole thing run. So I think that's in a leadership position is the most important. Like actually take it as a leadership position and actually lead your team towards your goal. Otherwise, they just do like not because they are bad or something, just because they don't necessarily know. They don't know how to lead. They don't know where you want to go. Like you have to tell them where you want to go and what has to be done to get where you want to go.
You are a leader who gives directions when people don't know, like shows them the goal, leads people towards the goal, gives clarity about that, and also has a positive energy, right? Like has the people motivated and energetic. Is it about you or?
Well, I try to. I mean, sometimes it's hard, you know, like in the morning at 9 o'clock, not being tired and expressing like a very positive vibe. But I try to never go negative into a meeting, especially with my employees. I feel like this responsibility, they don't deserve me to be like annoyed, sad or angry because they work for me, so they deserve that I pay them like attention and I come to them in a proper state. So yeah, I try to live those values, but certainly sometimes it's difficult. I'm not perfect at it, and so I'm still trying to get better.
Sometimes as a human, you can't control what you feel, right? Like maybe you can't control how you act, but if you feel sick or sad, it just comes out of you, right? Like, isn't it a little bit not being real? Like, how do you balance it, being real with your employees and being not negative? You know, this fake positivity which people I think also can feel, and then you don't trust such leader who is like, you feel something is wrong, but he's smiling.
I think it depends, like, where's your emotion coming from? Is it coming from actions the employee did? Like, if he delivered disappointing work, you have to let him know that he disappointed you in what he did. And then obviously, like, displaying those emotions will really help you for the employee to really understand the severity of his actions, both negative and positive. So if they deliver great and you're like out of the house, amazed whatsoever, they feel so motivated to go on and do the next thing. But I think if you have something completely unrelated to the company, for example, which like emotionally attached you, then I think it's fine to try to blend over those emotions as much as possible to like keep the company running. Because now, like, if you come in with like those bad emotions, which are just personal to you, now you're like infusing them into the company, into each of the employees, even though like there's no connection between those two things.
Yeah.
So I'm more like trying to protect the companies and the team with like shielding off like things which are not related to the company itself.
You've been doing business for quite some time. Something was more successful, something was less successful. But in the same time, this huge growth you've experienced the past year. What has changed inside of you? What did you start making differently?
I think I moved from just creating a product to actually building a business. So before what I said, like 100 failed project at least, where, I mean, those projects were good and I had to do them in order to be where I'm today. Because I learned like a lot about coding, and so I could code like now the latest apps just myself and push them out quickly without spending a lot of money, which I think when you start a business, you should never spend a lot of money. So they were helpful, but they were always targeted to building a nice website, a good looking website, a good looking app or whatsoever. I never started the the whole project thinking from, can this be successful? Is there demand in the market? And it's not about making money. It's about just checking, do people actually want this product? Like, do they care about it? Because I built so many products nobody cares about. Nobody needs it. There's no demand for it. So nobody used them. And so it's really about looking at those statistics before you start building to make sure, yeah, my time is invested well here. And the projects before, the time was still good because I learned at least coding from it, but it didn't advance on the business side.
You changed from building something nice that only you enjoy how it looks to looking into financials and like if people on the market need it. Is it correct?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I checked to make sure this type of product people use and people like. Now it can be as simple as like, I mean, you go out, there's a McDonald's, like, oh, people apparently like to eat.
Yeah.
Like, sure they do, but then you look more specifically, okay, well, what do they like about this business? It's very fast, it's cheap. And then you think about, okay, like, can I do a similar business? And if I would do the same business with like kind of very similar parameters, do I think I would be successful as well? Like in the case of McDonald's, probably very hard because people just love the brand. They see the golden M and they run to the golden M. So it might be very difficult just because the competition is so strong. But now if you have like a different product where the competition is not a big brand, they have like problems in their product which are making it difficult, hard, or very expensive to use. And you see a way like, hey, I could build a product that's cheaper. I can make sure my app is not that buggy and much better to or easier to use. And it's not going to take a lot of time, and especially it's not going to take a lot of money to do it. Then it might be actually a way of starting a good business here rather than just like a project where it stays a hobby.
How do you take a decision that this idea worth a shot, right? Like, is it your intuition? Is it in combination with market research?
It's, I would say, mostly market research. It sounds much fancier than it needs to be. It can be as simple as, or like what I do still a lot, just scrolling through the App Store. Like that's what I call market research. And you can do it literally like just replace, scrolling Instagram with scrolling through the App Store. It sounds boring, but you'll find like certain niches and products which might be interesting to you. And then the App Stores provide mostly enough information to understand. They show you how many reviews they have. You can see with the ranking in the App Stores, you can see competitor apps, other apps which are doing like similar thing, and you can get a feeling of how strong is this niche developed. And then you just download the app and you test out a couple of apps. And then you can see like, or evaluate somehow, can I create something better or is it very hard to build? Is it very difficult? Is it very expensive? And that's mostly my process already, where I could say, okay, like that's a very good candidate. Let's find a bunch of candidates and then just try to pick the best ones. And the best ones, they give you the highest chance of success, while obviously like you could fail. That's why you look for multiple ones.
Right. And in App Store and Play Store, there are millions of apps. How do you grow your customer base, let's say from 0 to first 10,000 downloads?
Yeah, it's certainly the most difficult task to get off from like 0 to 10K or to 100K. It usually gets easier afterwards. So there are a couple of things which help. If you did the research I described, then you usually get already some organic views already, because there seems to be a lot of demand by users to look up in the apps. Now you get the problem that well, there's also competition, right? Which they are already in the store, they have reviews. So key things are, well, first, like App Store optimization, meaning like your app description, your images, they have to be on point. You have to try a lot of things. They will just help you get much more views on your app and also many more downloads. Because, like that's the point, like, and when they download the app, that's all the information the user has. He sees the screenshots. The text is really just to help rank for keywords, because who's reading description on the app store? Like, nobody does. But it's also really hard because the next thing is you don't have any reviews. So that's your first goal, like gather reviews to get a good rating on there. And what helped, for example, with voices, if you downloaded voices in the beginning, it had a subscription in there, but it was unlimited. And because of the amazing developer I am, I wrote a bug into the software which allowed, as soon as one person subscribed to the app, everybody had access to it, unlimited, which it was pretty stupid, but in hindsight, I think it was actually key to success here. Because, well, obviously the product, it was very good. Like, it was easy to use, it was extremely simple, it was to the point, there was no distractions, right into the feature. The core text-to-speech feature was very good quality. We had the most characters, AI characters, across all the competition. But then it was also for free. And people
What
just...
can be better?
people were just running into the app and using it, because obviously nobody of the competition offered it for free, because it was insane. I mean, we lost money the first 2 months until we discovered this bug and we actually fixed it. But by then, we just gathered so many reviews, so many 5-star reviews, that now on the App Store, we had a great rating, we had good graphics, we were App Store optimized, which obviously is an ongoing process, but it was decent in the beginning. So we were just outranking the competition. And in the beginning, after we solved this bug, we still tried to undercut the competition on pricing. But we were just simply cheaper than the competition at better quality, which we continued to continue our growth. At some point, we had to revisit and reconfigure our monetization strategy, just because the business had to start making money. It was kind of sort of first 2 months, like we lost money, then we were kind of flat around break-even point, and we were like, okay, like, I mean, we need to get people, we're stacking up more expenses, we need to start making money on this now. And that's basically the first steps we took to get a grip and a good ranking in the App Store. And I think that was the key. We super quickly surpassed the 10K user, and we super quickly also surpassed like revenue numbers like 10K MRR or something. Very quickly went through those numbers, just because I think we did those steps in the beginning, which were just crucial to our success.
It sounds, for me, if you don't call it mistake, it sounds like a cool marketing strategy where we invested first.
I could sell it as a good marketing strategy, but in reality, it was just me not knowing how to code properly. So I mean, and my dad's developer himself, so he can make jokes now about me, how good of a developer I am. But in hindsight, it was really good that I wrote this bug into the software actually.
Yeah, so giving away at the beginning for free to try resulted in a lot of good reviews, and it boosted the app in App Store, which gave you a good start.
Especially because with Voices AI, it's just difficult to offer a free trial for the same reason. So because it's an AI application, we're getting charged by how much we send, or not send into the AI model, but because we run the AI model, every second basically the hardware runs in the cloud, we get charged for. So we get charged on the usage. So something like unlimited or a big 7-day free trial. It's difficult to make work financially because just our expenses on the AI side are so high. But on the other hand, we need to have those high expenses because that's the only way how we were able to surpass in quality all the competition. So obviously, we don't want to cut the quality. We want to increase the quality rather. And so those fixed costs, we're not getting down. And so things like unlimited or free usage, it's kind of a difficult task for us to manage with a manageable income of revenue.
Right. And you mentioned that at the beginning you had to work in minus a couple of months. Did you had some investors, or how financially you made it work?
I was able to code up everything myself. Took me maybe 2 months or something. And it was important to have a product which can be, again, like time to market is key for me. Go out to the store super quickly. 2 months is, for an app, it's very quick. So I didn't have any expenses on development. Maybe like, let it be like $200-300, like basically nothing, right? And then the first couple of months, it just went out of personal savings. I didn't take any investments on the company. I don't want to take any investments. The financials are pretty solid of the company. We're not in any need for any investment. And always, if you take an investment, then you always need to start working like for your investors themselves, right? So it's all bootstrap in the end. It's all from personal savings.
Right. You had your personal finances organized very well, most probably, so that you had some funds to be self-investor. Right.
Yeah, though in the beginning, I mean, it wasn't crazy amounts. Like we're talking a few $1,000s maybe. So it's certainly nothing where, I mean, basically don't buy an iPhone every year and you could have afforded it. You know, it was not crazy money. Certainly like my personal finances were aligned very well. So I didn't care much that it was going into the minus, but it's also mindset wise, you're just starting an application and you're seeing like how you're just losing money. And because you get more users, the big red number is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger every week. And you're just thinking, is this going to stop? Is it going to turn around, or do I need to cut it? So it's mentally a little bit difficult, but certainly you have to give your users in the beginning, just give them things for free. Just let them see how good your feature is. And that's why it's so important to build a great product, because the product, in case of Voices AI, the product sold itself just because it was that good.
Right.
Not because we did any crazy marketing.
When do you know when to stop, Because it's like a lot of entrepreneurs, they need to pre-invest before, but when do you know that it's not yet the right time to stop because you need more time for it to build? Or when do you understand that, no, I need to quit this project or close this project and do something else?
You never know. That's the answer. It's when you take a decision to stop something, it's stopped, and you don't know if you took the right decision or not, because you don't know what would happen if you would have continued. So at some point, you just have to tell yourself, like, you just have to take a decision, and you have to take the decision knowing that you will never really know if it's the right decision or not. So I don't really have a good answer to that. It's just, you have to take a decision to keep going. It's more important to keep going than this one single decision. If you decide to stop it, well, there's going to be something else coming up, right? So there's going to be a new opportunity. If you continue it, well, you get the chance to turn it around. So no matter which way you're going, it will still depend on what you're doing to get where you want to go.
It's more intuitively, you just feel, yeah, right now I'm taking the decision to stop it or continue.
Yeah, pretty much. And what I said, my stubbornness, most of the times I say like, no, let's try this again and let's try this and maybe we can make this work. But at some points you just need to cut. Sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. And even if there's a lot of emotions or personal like attachment to it, I had like one project which was going on for probably 8 years minimum, and I just cut it beginning of this year. It made in total $20. It cost probably in total $2,000 or something. Obviously this project had no sense.
Everyone has some bad reviews and sometimes people who are unhappy who are coming to you. How do you deal with complaints and with some hate, maybe if you experience it with your business?
Oh yeah, constantly. So I have it set up that every single review we receive on the app, I get in my email inbox.
Oh man, now if anybody uses Voices AI and says review,
And says a review, I personally read every single review. And we got on Voices AI across both app stores, we got over 40,000 reviews.
40,000.
Over 40,000.
You read all of them.
And that's just the reviews where people, or actually I don't know. No, 40,000 is like the rating. So people who left some stars on it. I think where people actually left a comment, it's more like something in the area of 10,000. But I have read every single one of them, and I probably have after this recording 100 more emails with new ones, and I will go read every one of them. Obviously, I'm not able to respond personally to each of them, but I do on a daily basis respond to at least a few of them, and especially if what I always try to fix immediately if people have a problem with their purchases, with some credits, or where people get annoyed very quickly because they just spend their hard-earned money and then they don't get the product they actually bought for, which is terrible. So that's things where I always step in and immediately try to resolve it. And I think we are very generous when it comes to that. It's often in a way, if someone just says like, hey, like I just lost $3,000 of credits on that, I'm like, okay, like I'll issue you the credits. I don't need to necessarily see proof. If it somewhat sounds reasonable, I just credit you the $3,000. It's not a problem. But we get a lot of hate also, especially on Android. We get a lot of one-star reviews. Mostly because they are surprised that they have to pay to use the app.
Yeah.
We are obviously always nice in replying, and we take all the feedback from those reviews into consideration, especially when people recommend what we could do better or what they dislike on the app. We think about, does it make sense to include it? So we certainly listen to each single one of them. When it comes to like being really extreme, the app stores actually do a good job in flagging them as inappropriate and actually deleting them. So if you like use some swear words and so on, usually until we read them, they are already deleted by Google, for example. So that's not happening very often. But I think it's one of the most important jobs to read those reviews, to reply to them, and to listen what the users like, what they dislike, and how they're feeling.
Right. Do you take some decisions on product development based on these reviews?
Yeah, certainly. We had, for example, especially on Android, with Voices AI, we got huge amount of downloads from India, for example, or from the whole area there, like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and so on. And certainly our pricing structure and monetization was more adjusted to the US market. And obviously there's a huge difference in purchasing power between the United States and India, or especially like Bangladesh. And we got it from a lot of users. They're like, Well, we love the free trial, but it's just too expensive to purchase anything.
Right.
And so we listened to that and we changed the product a little bit. Well, we changed the prices a bit for regions, but also we, for example, included the possibility to watch ads in the app in certain countries and under certain parameters for those people to be able to still use the app while we're not losing money on it. Because if we lose money on people from India, well, we need to charge the people from the US more to make the business run, which obviously, like, that's something we didn't want to do. Like, we wanted to keep the prices. Actually, we're trying to reduce the prices all the time when we can. So that's like something how reviews directly influence the product. And we get many more features like small adjustments, small tiny features, which users said like, hey, like, why can I not do that? And we're like, well, you're right. We just didn't think about it in development. And so those features are being shipped and constant improvements.
You changed and adjusted your pricing strategy for the regions which have lower purchasing power, and it helped them to buy more credits and they use the product, the premium version of the product as well.
Also crucial, I use the app mostly on a daily business, on a daily usage. Every day I open the app and I use it a bit. I generate songs they are so funny. They are crazy. What kind of quality you'll get out of those AI songs? You should certainly try. So I use it on a daily basis also to force myself to use it, to see like what do I recognize by using it over and over and over again. What's the points where the app is really annoying? What's the points where the app fails? What can I do better? So it's this constant cycle of how can we make this product just better and better and better. Though there's, back to the reviews, on the reviews there's also the downside of a lot of people will complain about things you not necessarily want to change. Like on Android, so many reviews, oh, make it free, please. It's like, well, would be cool to have it free, but then we would lose a ton of money, which obviously we cannot do. Like, if we would make it for free, we can make it for free for a month, and then we go out of business, are bankrupt, and you won't have a product anymore. You won't be able to use it at all. So we have to be reasonable about it. But that's basically how we keep improving our product.
What has been the most challenging for you personally in the past year while your business scaling so much?
There are a lot of small challenges which for some reason they come at the same time. And especially when you have things which are a little bit out of your control, where banks just suddenly decide to put you into some verification process where they freeze an account, where Google starts rejecting your updates while you really need to push like something because you have a bug which is important, which you need to fix. And for some reason, those things tend to come in on the same time. And then it just feels like the whole house is on fire. And you're like with your garden hose there and you're thinking like, where should I start now? Like, how am I supposed to extinguish this whole house of fire with this little garden hose? And then it really comes to like concentrating on one challenge after another. But that's what I experienced with the projects. Like in the last year, we didn't have any super major big concern. Mostly we're shipping some bugs from time to time, which are influencing the business. Again, I should take some development costs. But yeah, so no big challenges, usually a lot of small challenges just at the same time.
Is there anything that you had to learn over this year, like urgently? Like, you know, when they throw you in the water and you don't know how to swim, something similar, but in terms of business growth this year?
Basically everything. I mean, the business was till last year rather small. It was like meant to be one person and generating some revenue, but not crazy. And suddenly it started more like it started growing quite rapidly. And it's the thing about not like really knowing what you're doing. It's just about like just do something. If it's not the right thing you did, well, most of the times you can somewhat correct it afterwards. Um, it's it's not too bad, you know. It's just take a decision, just move on, and just continue and try to do something. So I had to learn across basically all aspects, uh, development, marketing, business, finances, everything. I had to learn everywhere, uh, a huge amount of things. But I think also like AI can help you a lot to manage certain tasks or to explain your task in a very quick manner to be more more efficient with your time. Um, so yeah, but it's a constant cycle. Like you will never stop being in that position. It will just go on and on and on.
How do you learn these things? Do you have some mentor? Do you read some books? Do you watch some videos? Is it just try 50 times?
It's first that trying 15 times. It's like when you buy a new electronic device, right? Like nobody reads the manual. You just click it a million times till it works. Um, and then just Googling, using AI now to ask it, um, researching things. But I don't have a fixed structure. I barely read books. So I rely kind of on internet resources mostly, and then reading through them and then trying them out. And if they work, cool. If they don't work, I'll just try the next thing.
Who inspires you? Do you have someone that is more like, I wouldn't say role model, right? But business wise, you look after and maybe you use some advices to try.
I mean, certainly any of those big tech billionaires from the US, um, just because operating a company at this level is something not a lot of people did, and it's very stressful, most probably, and takes a lot of attention. Especially looking like with Jeff Bezos, read and listened to some interviews of him, how his especially management style. I really like what he explains, how he's doing meetings and how he tries to keep track of the company and how he takes employees into the whole process, which I think is a very interesting model and quite cool. But I wouldn't say like one specific. It's more like looking at all of them, and again, what I said earlier with observing and trying to see like what are they doing good, what are they doing bad, and what are kind of the results of their actions, and which are really the actions which are bringing them forward and progressing them.
Right. And what gives you energy in these challenging moments? Like what supports you?
It's I would say the satisfaction you get when you solved something,
Right.
especially if you have a big problem. It's so satisfying when it's finally solved. Such a pain in the ass in the beginning, but you're all doing it to get this satisfaction in the end. And I think that's what mostly keeps me through. And I like to be very structured and organized. And so if I have a lot of problems, they're like little red fields in my head. And when it's solved, it's like one red field less. And so I like to clean up everything. And then it's just, I guess, a little bit the way I'm wired, that I like order and clarity. And so I strive to get rid of all problems to solve them as quick as possible.
What's your next challenge, right? Like, let's say I wouldn't plan for next 10 or 5 years because things are really uncertain, but something closer, like perspective of 1 year, where do you imagine, right, or aspire to bring your business in 1 year?
I would say like more expecting an acceleration in growth. Mainly what we talked about, like didn't take any external investments. So especially in the beginning, financially, it's extremely tight. If you think about it, if you just hire one person, that's like in the beginning a huge expense, especially if your business is losing money, you just have a little bit of personal savings, and now you want to hire someone who you need to spend $4,000 a month on it. It's like just in 3 months, you'll be down $12,000. It's a huge amount of money. Now we're at the point where we can be more comfortable in adding team members to invest basically into our growth without being like too afraid of might not work out, we might run into financial issues. That's all figured out basically. So yeah, now we're hoping a little bit to start accelerating more, but at the same time with that, I think we'll be exposed to more and more problems of scaling and growth. So I think it'll keep being a very exciting
Red field.
yeah, a lot of red fields coming up, I guess. But there's a lot to learn within that time period. So I'm really looking forward to doing it.
Right. That sounds really exciting. And one question I'm very curious about: what do you love more, being an entrepreneur or flying a plane?
It's very hard to say because it's so different, you know. It's certainly with flying. I mean, landing an airplane is amazing. Flying it for 6 hours in the air is a bit of a boring job. But you see just amazing nature and amazing places. So it's so hard to compare those two things. I think really the last few years where I had both combined was really cool to have the good things from both. While it also brought challenges, like especially time-wise, it's quite tough. So I don't really want to give up on any of them, but really like time is very limited, so I need to be very aware of how I allocate my time now. So I can't really decide on those.
So ideal picture for you being an entrepreneur who flies his own private jet, and it's more for you like a hobby rather than as a work.
Yeah, I can't imagine doing it as work anymore, just because I like doing my own company so much that I don't want to give it up for that. But yeah, still there's a huge passion in aviation, so I certainly gonna continue flying in some way whatsoever.
And is there something that you are bringing from being a captain to your business?
As a captain, you're the leader of the plane, right? So you take the leadership position for the whole team, not only the crew but also the passengers. A huge responsibility. So I think from the leadership position, it translates very well into business. And then yeah, like doing both at the same time is just a nice change of scene, going from your desktop work into landing, I don't know, in Iceland or in the mountains, in the American Rocky Mountains, for example. But yeah, mostly leadership, I would say.
I have a final question to wrap up our conversation. It's been really, really curious, and I think people who are trying to build their own apps, it's especially useful to rewatch it because you've been given some very specific things how to build your app, your customer base from zero to hero. Imagine you watch this podcast in 1 year from now. What is advice, right, you wanna say to yourself or some inspiration? So in 1 year from now, you watch it and you kind of thank yourself.
What I always try to do is do the things that seem to be the hardest and not the ones who seem to be easy to be doable very easily. I think it's very hard to do. Because the easy tasks, oh yeah, I can do them quickly, and the hard tasks, they're difficult. They take a lot of time, and I hope when we meet here, I mean, I hope we'll meet quicker, but latest in 1 year from now, that I just kept on doing those hard, very difficult tasks, which I really don't want to do, but I know I have to do because they will progress the business and myself the most. So that's really what I want to focus on also over the next year, and hope to see that when we meet again.
I think next year when we meet, I will ask you what are the hardest things you did this year. So we appreciate your feedback and your questions, which you have for Leon or for me, whether it's about flying the plane or about the business. I highly recommend go and check Voices AI and other products from Fiddler Tech in App Store and Google Store. And we'll be happy to see you in our next podcast.
Thanks very much, Jason.
Thank you.